Bleach the Thousand Year Blood War Arc anime's final part, Part 4, titled The Calamity, arrives in 2026. Yes, we finally have some scant information on Core 4 of the anime. Perhaps not as much information as people were hoping for out of Anime Expo, but it is new information nonetheless. And crucially, knowing for certain now that the anime is coming next year gives us time to adjust our expectations and settle in for the journey. So, in today's video, I want to briefly discuss what new information we did get from the expo today. There's not a huge amount to go over, to be totally honest, but there were a few tantalizing details shared that I'd like to talk about in a bit more detail, so let's crack on with it. Before we get started on the video, guys, there will be spoilers for the final part of the Thousand Year Blood War Arc anime still to come, so make sure you're aware of that before we get started. And of course, consider hitting subscribe down below if you enjoyed today's video. It really would make all the world of difference. And check out my other channel, Mr. Tomo Talks Games, where I just put out a video talking about the disaster that is Xbox's current leadership. What the hell is going on over there? Absolutely no idea. If you're interested in checking that out, go and have a look. Maybe drop a subscribe on that channel as well. Help us continue to grow. It would be greatly appreciated. Right, let's begin with the big one. Yes, it is confirmed. Core 4 arrives in 2026, which, to be honest, isn't really all that surprising considering we are halfway through 2025 somehow, and this is the first we're hearing of it. But with no release window hinted at beyond that whatsoever, I think we are in for quite the wait still. Maybe even looking at a release in the second half of the year. And to be honest, I'm more than okay with that. This is the final part of the anime, the conclusion to the story that they have adapted so very well up until now, and I'm more than content with the team taking their time, taking really as much time as they possibly need in order to get it right. For all we know, this could be Bleach's big send-off once again, at least for a little while, though I'm somewhat confident the series will continue in some form, so it's only natural that they do want to do it as much justice as possible. Plus, in Core 4, there's going to be more new content than ever before, meaning the scope of the adaptation is simply going to be bigger. It's totally natural for them to want to take more time, for them to need to take more time. And don't forget, Core 3 took a little longer than expected, certainly longer than Core 2, and turned out, frankly, amazing for the most part. So yeah, as far as a 2026 date goes, I'm perfectly happy with that, and I think the Calamity is going to end up being something quite special. But they didn't leave us with just the year. The team also revealed the latest key visual for Part 4, and it's an interesting one, an interesting choice to say the least, depicting Ichigo in his Horn of Salvation form on a striking red background. This key visual matches the style of the visuals that we received for Core 1, which featured full-bring Bankai Ichigo on an orange background, and for Core 3, which featured Uryu on a blue background. Which is really awesome, though honestly looking back now, it's a real shame that unless I'm forgetting about it and I've missed it somehow, that we didn't receive one of these for Core 2 at all. Now, Core 2 received its own key visuals, of course, but just not one in this kind of character poster style, which actually is kind of annoying. It's interesting, of course, that the team went with the Horn of Salvation form, something that could be considered a pretty massive spoiler. But look, if I'm being honest, I'm not really sure how much of a spoiler this actually is. Personally, showing Ichigo's true Bankai breaking in half in the original concept trailer for Part 4 was a way bigger and more consequential spoiler than this. It's Bleach. It was likely that Ichigo would receive a new form by the end, though I completely understand any anime-only viewers not wanting to see what it looked like beforehand. But it kind of feels to me like the Horn of Salvation form is just an open secret now anyway, a little bit like Ichigo's true Bankai, to be totally honest, likely because the manga has been finished for so very long. I mean, even the new Thousand Year Blood War Arc Ichigo character in Rebirth of Souls uses this form. So yeah, I don't think it's a huge spoiler personally. What is interesting though is that he is clearly about to use bankai as he is placing his two swords together in the artwork, which is really cool. I like the attention to detail here as well in this key visual. The fact that Ichigo's clothes are damaged and destroyed in the exact same way they are in the chapter is awesome. But yeah, that's about it for the release date and the key visual, but we do have a few interviews and excerpts and comments to discuss too, where some of the juicier details can be found. Let's begin, of course, with the man himself, Kubo, who had a few small things to say regarding Core 4. As part of the staff comments, Kubo addressed the lengthy wait for Core 4, saying, "I'm sure there are many fans who thought, isn't it going to be broadcast this year? But I'm sorry, it's next year. Please wait just a little longer. Until then, I believe we'll be able to make it into something truly great." It's interesting to see that they fully expected people to think that Core 4 would release this year, and that tells me that, especially considering we've still seen nothing from the actual show itself yet, we really do have quite the wait ahead of us. But hearing Kubo himself saying he believes they'll be able to make it into something truly great is genuinely exciting, and is hopefully a sign that the series really will end in an absolutely incredible way that is befitting of its pedigree, and befitting of just how good the Thousand Year Blood War arc not only always was, at least in my opinion anyway, but how good it really could have been. But then Kubo gave another comment separately which reads, "My supervision of the fourth part will be equal to my supervision of all the previous parts combined. This part will greatly expand the story, so I need to oversee it closely." Obviously, that's very exciting. It goes without saying, Kubo was already overseeing a lot of Core 3 in particular, and helping them make huge changes and additions to the story there when they really started to deviate in some pretty key ways. So I mean, I really can't wait. Just talking about it is getting me hyped for what's to come. This is probably going to be transformative. And it's so awesome to see that Kubo himself really has a handle on what's going on with his story, and he gets the chance to kind of put it right in a sense. I'm very excited. After this, a video interview with Masashi Kudo, the character designer for the anime, who famously posts artwork of major characters associated with virtually every single episode as they come out, was released, and again, there's some very interesting stuff in here. Now, I'm not going to go over everything he says, but let's just look at what is probably the single biggest item in the interview. When asked the question, as you continue to work on part 4, what scenes or parts are you particularly looking forward to? Kudo replies with the following, saying, "Up until now, and this was the case up until this part, but with the anime-only scenes, for example, Sensei may have had a scene in mind, but didn't include it in the manga. This time we'll have more of those kinds of scenes. Those new aspects, I think they are something to get excited about. I think even those who've read Bleach back in Jump, even they will have some new discoveries to look forward to, like new characters. Yes, you'll definitely get to see some of them." Well now, that final line in particular is about one of the most exciting things he could have possibly said. New characters in the final part of the anime that even those who read Bleach back in the day will be surprised to see. That they will consider them to be new discoveries. Who on earth could he be referring to? There's obviously, I don't want to say a lot of possibilities, but there are a few possibilities despite the fact we've ostensibly reached the end of the story. And the exciting thing is that while there are still some new characters left to appear from the manga, like Kazui and Ichika, he's clearly not talking about them since, well, those of us who read the manga have already met them. So who could these totally new characters be? Look, there are a few possibilities. First of all, let's stick with the Thousand Year Blood War arc. Perhaps he could be referring to the Soul King's backstory. Maybe we get to meet the likes of the ancestors of the five noble houses. They would constitute completely new characters, even for those who read the manga. Or honestly, anyone affiliated with Ryo that we've never met before. Again, there is a lot of potential there. The Soul King and those surrounding him and his history definitely feels like a big contender for where a lot of the new content we might receive in part 4 will stem from, or maybe that's just me being hopeful. Another Thousand Year Blood War arc possibility is that maybe, and this is a huge stretch, but maybe we might even be introduced to some very last-minute new villains in order to give characters like Chad something to actually do that isn't just fighting statues in this final showdown. This doesn't seem super likely to me, but I mean, we're kind of at the stage now where all bets are off. It is possible. Or maybe we'll be introduced to some new characters in the aftermath of the war instead, some new Shinigami perhaps, as we skip ahead into the future. But then outside of the Thousand Year Blood War arc is of course the elephant in the room, Can't Fear Your Own World, which we've technically already referenced via the Noble House ancestors. If the plan is, in fact, to animate Can't Fear Your Own World once they're done with the Thousand Year Blood War arc, then yeah, we could be introduced to the likes of Tokinada, perhaps. I'm still very hesitant to double down and entertain the fact that it might be something or someone from Can't Fear Your Own World, as that really is a wholly separate project at the end of the day. But hey, if they do decide to go that route, I'm all for it. So yeah, the idea of getting brand new characters that even someone like myself and likely most, if not all of you, will consider a new discovery is unbelievably cool and exciting. I'm just trying to think if there have been any totally new characters that even manga readers didn't know in the anime so far. Maybe the original Gotei 13 would count? Other than that, I think it's pretty much only Nikita, the member of Yhwach's original Schutzstaffel that we had never seen before. She is a totally new character, but apart from that, I'm not sure there's been anyone else, but I could be blanking, to be totally honest. By the way, it makes me laugh that in the back of this interview, there is maybe the biggest spoiler of the bunch, as Kudo is casually sitting in front of one of the most spoilery pages left in the manga that he possibly could, which is Aizen revealing he used Kyoka Suigetsu on Yhwach right at the end of the final battle. It's right there! That's one of the biggest reveals left to come. I'm a little surprised that's in there, to be totally honest. But moving on to the final part of our video, there are a couple of additional staff comments to go over. First from Taguchi, the chief director, which simply reads, "At this point, there's nothing more to say. Look forward to it. Keep your eyes peeled for the final chapter." I kind of love the way he's just like, I've got nothing else to say. I think that's pretty funny. And then finally, we have Murata, a director, who said, "To all the fans waiting for the final core of the anime Bleach the Thousand Year Blood War, I sincerely apologize for the delay. Every day I can feel the spiritual pressure-like intensity of your thoughts. What's going to happen with that? Or how will that scene be portrayed? In order to exceed those expectations in the best possible way, the entire staff is racking our brains and working hard on the production. Unfortunately, I can't share any details about the content just yet. However, if I had to choose one keyword that defines the final core, it would be this: bankai." So, look, I mean, that final word is pretty exciting, and even with just the content left from the manga, it is easy to see why bankai would define this final core. We've got a bunch of new bankai incoming, some of the biggest in the entire series, in fact. Kisuke, Kenpachi, and of course Ichigo's true bankai left to show, plus even the likes of Hitsugaya's matured bankai and Byakuya's ultimate attack. But is this a hint that there may be even more bankai to come? This is something I've speculated for a while now, like most of you, and I'm decently confident that we are almost certain to get at least one new bankai, if not more, in this last core. I still firmly believe that the three bankai that are maybe the most likely to appear are Love's bankai, Ishin's bankai, and yes, Aizen's bankai. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Okay everyone, that's it for today's video, a fairly short one, but just going over the small tidbits of information, tantalizing as it is, that we've had about Core 4 from the Anime Expo. There's still seemingly a fairly long way to go, but we'll just have to make the journey together. We'll have to wait it out. I don't know how long it's going to be. It seems like it is going to be a while. I'm expecting second half of the year, 2026, perhaps maybe something like July. Core 2 aired in July, famously on the day of my wedding, pretty much. That takes me back. But yeah, so I'm excited. There's still a long way to go, but it sounds like it's going to be absolutely amazing, and I really can't wait. Alright everyone, once again, thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you took something of value away from it as well. Consider hitting subscribe if you haven't done already. Check out Mr. Tomo Talks Games. And a huge thank you goes out to my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. To each and every one of you, your support does mean the absolute world, and it makes an enormous difference as well. I really couldn't be doing this without you, so thank you all so, so very much. And again, if you want to support me over on Patreon as well, you can do just that via the link in the description. It would be massively appreciated. Okay, everyone, once again, thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.